We're live.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining. I have Cindy as well as Susan here with me today.
We're busy right now because we're kind of hearing crickets at the moment. We're trying to keep the office busy, the crew's busy. I don't know if any.
Yeah, that wasn't me. To throw it out there, the brains behind Wholesale Fencing, his name is Adam Butts, and it's great. If and when you need to get your fence materials, we sell them nationwide, all different varieties, and that's the only plug I'll throw in there.
I think it's gonna dumb our generation up a little bit, though. I'm nervous that after a while, nobody's gonna be writing their own emails. They're just gonna be They're gonna be typing in, tell Susan, I think she smells funny.
Yeah. He asked me about it too. He said, "What's Susan's mom's name?" And I said, "Toby." And he was like, "She requested me." And I said, "Accept it. Duh, we love mom."
And we started doing meetings in the morning, and we have designated, I don't know if you guys have how you do your teams. International BNIs.
BNI.
Yeah, they
BNI. Every city.
Yeah. Y con eso, hablando de eso, es qué difícil es cuando una persona entra a trabajar a un lugar que nada más hablan en inglés, ¿verdad?
I love the challenge. I love learning new stuff every day. And I feel like if I had to choose to do that on my own, I don't know that I would.
I like that.
I will tell you, my husband and I, we just got into the digital world this last, in 2023. We were still handwriting, all of our lead forms, all of our, fence layouts, everything.
I need my little halo on top of my head.
Does that mean I need to put on my horns?
About what the fence show is all about. And, I stuck around because I got a great group of amazing women.
You're talking about, millions and millions of dollars in a contract is not something that is, I guess, typical in the fence world, right?
Makes me jealous. Now I want a horse, Brian. Hello, everyone. How is everyone? Hi, guys. So today is August 19th, 2025. We are the Women of FWA, and I am Yadira Fredrickson. As you guys can see, we have some very special guests this day. I was able to gather several of us today. So Veronica with SWI, Tiffany with Iron Price Consulting, and a very special guest of Karen O'Neill. You are with Easy Louver, right?
I am. Easy Louver. We're a manufacturing company. We manufacture a bracket to make louvered fences.
I love that. Can you show it? Can you show that to us a little bit?
Yeah,
very cool.
This is the powder coated. We started off with just straight aluminum, but you can use these to make a louvered fence really easily.
And if you guys haven't seen them, I definitely check them out. I was able to check them out at the Summer Bash at SWI with Veronica. So it's very cool to actually see the actual product out in the field getting installed. That was really cool. But today, guys, we have a really cool and interesting topic. Today, we're going to be getting real about failures, because everybody has failures, but it's how we address them and how we learn from them that how we get better. So they do say that 90% of startups fail, 10% fail in the first year, 70% fail by year 5, and only 30% survive beyond year 10. So with that being said, I kind of wanted to touch on this topic to see what we've learned and how to make the changes moving forward, and how we're able to stay in business for long, right?
And every year brings new challenges. I know that we can talk about on an industry standpoint in 2025, the industry as a whole has seen such a huge difference in, decline, and just a bunch of different things coming down and compiling onto one. This is not just, you know, certain contractors or certain people in our industry. This is across the board. And when there's big national things that are happening, you know, an election year is always a downturn. I mean, I will say that in the history that we've been around, we can tell you an election year is tough. But 2025 brought on like a whole new set with tariffs, and, you know, the cost of living isn't declining as fast as we all want it to. And everybody's kind of in this, what do we do? You know?
Yes.
So yeah, even as a seasoned company, that doesn't make you immune. There's still things that you have to do, and certain things that you have to be prepared for. And Michaela, love you.
So ladies, today, I guess we kind of, the way I wanted to get started is early on in starting our businesses, what struggles or what issues did you, one or two things that you made, a mistake that you may have made that you learned from? Karen.
That's a great question. What I would say is actually you have to always keep in mind the things that are in your control and out of your control. And to Veronica's point there, and, you know, manage your risk accordingly. So, you know, I think it's a really important lesson to manage your risk and understand. Nobody has a crystal ball, but being able to understand the consequences of decisions that you're making. And sometimes, like, fail faster. A book I read a while back is John Maxwell. He's Fail Forward. And so it's like, you know, you want to fail faster and go ahead, fail often, fail forward.
Yes.
Go for it.
And don't be afraid of that. You know, even everybody's definition of failure is a little bit different, whether if it's failure on a job or failure on a contract review or failure on a hire. You know, there's all of these things, and don't necessarily look at failure as a bad thing. It's a lesson. You know, there's a lesson to be taken from every single situation.
Yeah. Sure. Tiffany, what can you add to that?
Yeah, I would agree about, you know, trying to be aware of risks. I also think one that's maybe really common is learning to delegate and or systematize, right? So I know, like, myself and just some of the entrepreneurs I've talked to in the past, like, one thing that would happen is we would maybe be a technician. We were really great at our job. We thought, hey, I could go ahead and start a business doing this, and my management would be better than the management I'm dealing with here. But you get into it and it's like, hey, you're a really great technician, but you may not also be a bookkeeper. You may not also have all the customer service skills that you need, right? So when an entrepreneur tries to wear every hat, I think that is something that ends up maybe not, you know, I think that you could maybe skirt around failure while carrying the entire load yourself. But I'm willing to bet it increases the likelihood significantly.
Right.
And also out on the experience a little bit of that connecting, you know, and collaborating with other businesses and joint ventures and stuff. There's really kind of a fulfillment that comes from utilizing your business in that way.
Yeah.
So there's also a flip side to that, Tiffany, and I 100% agree with you. In regards to you can't carry the load by yourself, but it's also your responsibility to make sure that you're doing your due diligence to verify and make sure that people are doing things the right way. One of FWA has heard me teased quite a bit in the last couple of years in regards to a situationship that SWI got into, that yes, soon we will be divulging the details of that. But we actually hired a very well-known, reputable company to handle something for us. And it turns out that it was a nightmare. And here is, you know, we did our due diligence. We spent time with them. We went through reviews. We did the research. And the experience that we had was nothing short of a nightmare. And we're talking about a very sensitive part of, you know, our organization. So you can't be scared, but you also can't be blind. You know, you have to take the time and make sure that if you're entrusting another company or another individual, that there are checks and balances and that you're going through and making sure that you're protected. Now, you don't want to do that on a micromanager level, because what's the point of having them?
Yeah.
Right. And if they're causing you more work than they are helping you, then it's probably time to decide which way to go. But yeah, and you'll only be able to grow as much as you can handle and carry before it either kills you or you kill it.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the mistakes that that I made, or we made at Las Vegas Fence as a kind of a new business starting off, just brand new, is not sending out a notice of right to lien on a project. And it's not necessarily a lien on the project, but as a licensed contractor in the state of Nevada, it just states that you have the right to lien the project in the future. But each state has its own laws on how they should be sent. You know, in Nevada, like for a residential project, you're required to send out a notice of right to lien, as well as an intent to lien, like a 15-day notice of intent to lien the project. So it's all these laws that are in place in Nevada, and I'm sure every other state has its own. But that's one of my biggest failures. I definitely learned from it. Moving forward, we do send out a notice of right to lien on all of our projects.
So, do you do that in-house? Do you do that in-house, or do you hire a third party to take care of those?
We do that in-house.
So, yeah, notice of right to lien in every state has different regulations, different rules. Yes. Every state, every county has their own set. It is a protection for not only for you, but also for the homeowner as a contractor. And that's, when you learn that lesson, that's a tough one. And it can be very costly, especially if you're not doing that, but you also don't have a clear general terms and conditions attached to your contract that would protect you as well. So even if you're not doing a notice of right to lien and protecting your lien rights on the property, if your contract is locked in enough with your regulations, you can actually go after a personal judgment against those people through the court. So there are other resources too, and other ways to handle those. But let me tell you what, lien rights, if you are not familiar with lien rights, then Yadira and I probably need to get together.
Sounds like a future episode. I think it is important to emphasize, protecting yourself in the sense of having those documents for when you're dealing with customers. And then also just remembering that the world that we live in is continuously growing more and more litigious. Whether it's frivolous lawsuits or people wanting to get rich quick, or accidents do happen. Maybe it's something legitimate. I think that it's really critical to make sure that you have those insurances, you have, everything that you're going to have, whether it's the fence industry or a service business. Those safety protocols, I do think, get overlooked sometimes in the beginning. And I think that that's a lesson that, when you do learn it, unfortunately, sometimes you learn it the hard way, maybe more.
Absolutely. But you only learn it once.
Well, and those are the kind of lessons where it's much, much better to learn lessons from other people that have learned it the hard way. And then you don't have to, hit your head quite as hard.
That's one of the reasons why we're as transparent as we are. Anybody that watches our YouTube channel knows, like, hey, we used to do it this way. Guess what? Don't do that. There's a better way to do this. Let us save you some time and money.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely. So moving on, I guess, once your business is established and you're trying to scale, what's one of the lessons that you have learned in that phase of the business, Karen?
As you're scaling, I tell you what, it's, I read something recently about the difference between a founder and a CEO. And a founder is starting something from nothing. And so like our business is totally startup, and it's something from nothing. And so some of the lessons that I have learned with this is, for example, when we started, both of us had other jobs and different things, and we put off getting our website professionally done, and for about 9 months, and that was not a good decision. So again, it's like you can't have a crystal ball, but you can reflect a little bit on what you've done and be able to adjust how you go forward. So yeah.
Definitely. What about you, Tiffany?
I think I got to bang the systems drum again, because I think a lot of people, they get involved, right? And they're working. So we find a way to create a revenue by completing a task, right? And then oftentimes we find ourselves in that loop where we're on that task over and over. So if we decide it's time to allow somebody else to assist with the task, if it's a verbal, and I've dealt with this in so many companies, a verbal pass down, hey, this is pretty much how we do it, go to work kind of thing. I think it leaves so much room for error versus having written and edited. Like when you've written something, you can refine it, you can see what's working, what's not working, and then it's concreted. So anyone new that comes in, they're referring to the exact same content, not a telephone game pass down of information. And then honestly, with our newer technology, right, written is probably a little old school. Video trainings and things like that work very similarly. They're easy to edit with all the AI tools that are out there. Creating really solid, not just trainings for the noobs, but then also like, okay, we happened into a situation, it played out in this way. We had always planned on dealing with it with option A, but now that the situation played out, we realized we need to throw in an if this, then that, and an if this, then that kind of scenario. So I think systematizing all the little parts that need to be done is something that carries entrepreneurs way further than that willpower of just getting out there and banging it all day.
And to add to that, I mean, systems is what allows us also to kind of focus on new things and bigger things. So once you have the system in place, you're free to go out and do new things.
Yeah. Right. Scale and grow.
Absolutely. You can hold people accountable. Make sure your team has the same vision. This is something that, Susan and I just talked about a few weeks ago on a live is, what exactly is company culture? What exactly is leadership? How do you make these things happen? And she kept saying, well, why can't you read my mind? Well, why can't you? Well, that's Susan, first of all. And then all of us have everything like written out and like down, to the fine tooth. But it's very much it's a double-edged sword. You're getting it off your plate. You're setting a clear expectation, right, of like how to do certain tasks and procedures. But then at the same time, you also have grounds and resources to hold people accountable. And that all goes back to your culture. If you're not getting that stuff out and setting that expectation, then how can you expect your company culture to be successful? And I can tell you,
is really set by leadership. So it's
right.
Back to one.
Right. Company culture is such a huge part of any organization, in my opinion, to be successful. If it wasn't for X, Y, and Z, would you still be where you're at? Or are you doing this by yourself? Again, like Tiff said, with nobody, and you're miserable. Well, sometimes it's a matter that, do you have the time to write it all down? No. But will it be worth it? Yes.
Absolutely. Yes. And I think even with us as well, a few years ago, we had nothing in place that stated, we were so small, when you're growing and you're trying to grow your organization, but when you're pretty small, you don't have anything in writing, you don't have anything in place. So, even with time off, so-and-so wants time off. And it just seems as somebody in leadership or somebody in a management position, it just seems like somebody's always asking for time off, but it's not really that somebody's always the same person, it just in your mind, it seems like that, but no. But once you sit down and write out, this is what vacation time you're allowed, this is what sick days you're allowed, this is how much you can accumulate
on per hours worked, or however you want to do it, however you want to get that structured in place, the less thinking, stress, headache.
That's so true.
You're going to go through.
So true. To be able to write that down, please make sure that you follow your state laws on vacation, not only the Department of Labor on a national level, but also your state ones. Sorry, got to throw in the disclaimer. But it's so true. When you're seeing the same thing over and over and over, you're like, oh, why? But it's really not the same thing over and over. There's little tweaks, but absolutely, it's a matter of getting it out. And I'll tell you, employees, and I will say that you guys very rarely ever hear me say that word, but there is a difference between employees and team members. And employees will teach you the biggest lessons of your career.
Yes.
They will teach you things that you never thought was humanly possible for someone to want to do to an organization that's paying them to feed their family.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, they will teach you some of the biggest ones, because those employees will also find the loopholes and install things wrong, and your butt is on the line.
Yes.
And I think that that's a good interjection to mention friends too. Just
That's
a lot of
hard,
startups, right in the very beginning. I personally made the I don't know if I'll call it a mistake, but the lesson opportunity, right?
Yeah.
Of wanting, and I think it's good to want to, like, hey, I'm starting a business. It's going to make more money than I made as a wage earner. The next idea would be then to find everyone I love that's also still a wage earner and just get them on the boat, you know?
Yeah.
But you might find that just because you're passionate about this and it's your goal,
Yes.
not everyone, like, you can be really great friends. They can love you. They can care about your interests. And in so, like, they do care about your business because they care about your interests. They know it's your livelihood, but there's still that, that self level that we all have where it's like, I know it's your business, but I just really didn't feel like doing that today.
Yeah.
Or that task seemed overwhelming and I should have reached out for help, but, and then a lot of times if they started as a friend and you brought them on, they're going to expect that kind of like friends and family easement, like, it's the point because you're a friend kind of thing, and so I'm not saying don't be friends with your team members. For sure, like, building those relationships plays into company culture, and I'm not saying you can't go into business with your friends, but that's another great place where that documenting, that clear communication and agreements and ability to let the system also provide that accountability, right? So you don't have to come in and be like, I am holding you accountable. You did all this. You can say, hey, we agreed on this term, and based on the data that we have, like, here's where it's at. So the system's going to have to hold you accountable now.
Definitely.
So a little point on that.
Yeah. Accountability as a whole. If y'all haven't done that topic, that's a good one too.
Well, it's hard sometimes, you're holding yourself accountable, plus you're trying to hold everybody else accountable, plus you're trying to, juggle all these things and protect everything. And accountability is number one. And sometimes these hard conversations about things being hard or not successful or lessons that you've learned is really coming back to hold yourself accountable. Are you doing what you need to in the position in your organization, whether if you're on leadership or if you're an owner or if you're the receptionist?
Yes.
Let's face it, if it wasn't for the person answering your phone, you wouldn't have jobs, you wouldn't have a paycheck, and you wouldn't be where you're at. So, there's a lot of it, and you have to be accountable for a lot.
And I think that's just an opportunity for personal growth, right? Because if you're in a situation where you could be like, yeah, well, it wasn't really my fault because, right? And maybe there's a legitimate something behind that because.
Right.
But in that scenario, you make just the personal choice of like, hey, where can I find my own accountability in this? And then take care of that.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
A lot of times that creates that domino effect because the leadership is there.
Absolutely.
And there's always like, I should have been more clear about this. And I think for me, I tend to do it a lot, how could I have been more clear about my instructions, or how could I given them a deadline on something, or, that is a big one, deadlines.
are a must when you are starting, when you're in a management position. You have to give deadlines. I always tell my
It's
husband,
setting the expectation.
Yeah.
You can't, it's setting the expectation. It's not the fact that you don't believe they can get it done. The expectation is that this can be completed by this time. Now, is that a hard deadline? No. If you come to me and say, hey, we've got X, Y, and Z, this is why I can't, but you've set an expectation with clear communication.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So one last thing I guess I wanted to touch on is what I wish someone had told me before I started.
Before I started.
Yes, before you started. One thing you wish someone would have told you.
I think one big thing is actually to get really clear about your own values. And, for a number of reasons. One, it does help you to recognize when you have failure or not, because, it's not just a business that can fail. You can also fail in the actions and activities you're doing. So, but the only way you know that is if you're really clear about your own values and priorities and that kind of thing. And the other reason that I think that's so important is because work is one part of our life. And if we're not clear as a human being, then we get too identified with business. And then if you do have a business failure, it's like your whole identity gets tanked. And so it's really important on a personal and professional level to be clear about who you are as a person.
Yeah. I love that, Karen. What about you, Tiff? Something that you wish somebody would have told you, or
what's crazy, and I hate to admit this, but I think they told me everything I needed to know.
Really?
I remember hearing things like, be a problem solver, company culture, leadership. Like I remember hearing, start where you are with what you have. It doesn't have to be perfect before launch, things like that. But it was really hindsight that concreted anything that I had thought that I knew. Because I think context wise, right? If somebody gives us advice, we can only hear it really from where we are. So we'll try to take it in, but then as life continues to spiral us around, we come back and back and back to that lesson. Oh, and a deeper level, I understand what they meant by that. Or on a deeper level, I can really embody that advice now. Mm-hmm. So I say get out there and soak up all the advice you can, and then stay in action, right? Stay moving forward, because it's in action that all that wisdom finds itself into reality. It's where you actualize it is more than just, thoughts in the air. So that would be my already told me, I kind of learned it. And that's the advice I could give at this point.
How about you, V?
I got a couple parts. And this is something that I really embraced through the fence industry as the whole. Is there are so many different personalities in this industry, but at the end of the day, when you all get us together, we all have the same passion, the same, talk, fence, geek out on fence, as I've referred to it. There's something about, you and I did it at Summer Bash. We're sitting there, it's 9:00 at night. Everybody's doing their thing and we're still talking about fence. But surround yourself with those people. Everybody wants to talk to you. Everybody wants, to teach and to share their passion and to be able to encourage and tell people, the hard lessons that they've learned, or the things that, they've tried that just flat didn't work. Or if you've got a situation that flat just didn't work and you're not quite sure what to do with it now, reach out to your peers in this industry. Reach out to Women of FWA. Ask, because I will tell you, you're not on a deserted island all by yourself in this industry. You're not. Yeah. I lived that life for many, many, many years and thought it was just me on this island of our team. And we were, I was just a nobody that works for a fence company that nobody knows where Wyoming is. So how could this really be a thing? So, there are so many resources out there and private messages and people that are willing to do that. Another one, I'm going to piggyback on Tiff, is it does not have to be perfect when you roll it out. This is my biggest failure as a individual every single day. This is where Mark and I butt heads, because I'm like, no, I just need more time. Like, I know it's not going to be perfect, but it just needs some more refining. Like, let me figure this out before we roll it out. And I'm spending 3 times the amount fixing it.
Mm-hmm.
Which he does give me that little bit of time, but at the same time, he'll also pull the rug out from underneath me and say, enough's enough. We're going to roll it out and we'll fix it. And I always trust him. I curse him a lot in the process, I will tell you. But you learn to trust these people. And even when you're not trusting yourself, listen to your peers, listen to the people that are there that are encouraging you. And it will do you a lot of peace of mind and a lot of favors down the road.
Yeah.
So what about you, Dira?
So I honestly, one of my biggest things is I wish we would have hired an accountant sooner.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I feel like not wasted, but I spent more time than I should have in the beginning. Just doing the bookkeeping, and I guess I was missing out on the fun stuff like this,
But at the same time, you learned the books inside and out because that was your responsibility.
Yes.
So you can have those conversations now with your bookkeeper that before it would have sounded like Charlie Brown's teacher, the wah, 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 wah.
Yes. You're absolutely right. But yes, on a personal level, I guess I wish we would have hired an accountant sooner. But now that I've released all that onto, which is hard,
Yes.
Because you want to hold on to the stuff that the stuff that you've been doing for years. But like I said, just releasing it and giving it away to someone I know is going to do a good job has allowed me to step out of my comfort zone and do other things like this. So, I still enjoy it. I still go in there and I still I'm not doing like the day-to-day entry stuff,
Mm-hmm. And it's letting go of some of that when it's been a passion and a secondhand nature. I've been going through a lot of changes in position changes within SWI, and that's hard, man. Yeah. There's been a lot of really long, hard conversations with myself about, yes, this is an adventure I want to go on. And yes, this is where my passion in it. Yes, this is where my drive is. But at the same time, what about this? Like, I could sit in my comfort zone and still, would I be happy? But I might not be happy, but at the same time, our team's taken care of, and our team's this and our team's that, so some of those conversations, I'll tell you, the past year has been a lot.
Yeah.
So.
Well, with that wedding of yours, maybe you didn't have a wedding coming up in like
3 weeks.
3 weeks.
No big deal. It's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine. It's fine.
That sounded convincing.
I'm kind of at that guilt part. You talk about being such huge parts of organizations, and I will tell you, I think I am more stressed out about being out of the office for 2.5 weeks than I am actually about the wedding. Just to be real. It's not that I will be completely unplugged from our team. Our team, actually, I will be unplugged from for 5.5 business days, and I've split it up over 2 weeks. So they've got the beginning of 1 week and the end of the following week. Yes, our honeymoon was planned around SWI. So, but it's still kind of okay, little birdies, it's time to fly. And if something major catastrophe comes up, yes, absolutely, please call me. I'll always be available. But it's a good test. So, and I think I'm a little bit more stressed about that than I am actually about getting married. So
you very well might find that they handle it perfectly while you're gone.
Absolutely. So when we went to Hawaii, when I went to Hawaii with my dad in February, I got 2 work calls, and they were legitimate there was nobody else and resources that they could have gone to. It was definitely something that they had to come to me for. And I got back and it was like everything was still rolling. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's still nerve-wracking, you know, when you're in touch with your team all the time and they know and you know when you're that safety blanket, it's still kind of nerve-wracking.
Yeah. Well, ladies, with that, then I'm gonna let you all go. With being said that failure, we've all come to realize that failure, it's just a part of business, and it's gonna we're gonna continue to make mistakes. We're gonna continue to fail, but it's never an actual failure because we're always learning from it. We're always learning new things, right?
Right.
And you have resources, reach out to Women of FWA. If you find yourself in a pickle, I guarantee there is someone else in this team or that we know that would be more than happy to sit down and talk to you about it and let you know kind of how we navigated it or how we got through it or what recommendations we would have. So absolutely. Karen, thank you. All the ladies are chiming in. For your time. Tiff, that was so good to have you on a Women of FWA live again. It's been a bit. So thanks for your time.
Thank you guys. You guys have a good night. We'll catch you guys next Tuesday at the same time, 3:30 Pacific time.
Absolutely. Check out the page. See you guys later.
Bye, everybody. Thanks.